Happy Friday, everyone. We are going to close out the week today with some interval work. So there's going to be some different options on the workout description today and some different variations of this workout. So I want you guys to check to see what you have access to at home and how you want to take this down. So we'll have a couple non kind of variations of apparatus like a rower, assault bike, stationary bike. We have lots of those options in the workout description today, so check those out. But these two will be no equipment needed for that work set. So what we got? We got a nice little warm up, dynamic triangle of 3 to 5 a side, windmill 3 to 5 a side, good morning plus sumo squat of 3 to 5, and a side scale raise for 3 per side. 1 to 2 rounds, that's really going to get those legs and that upper body kind of moving around a lot, just kind of getting things feeling good. We're then going to move down to that next phase. We're going to work on a squat lunge combo for 1 to 3 reps of that combo. Lateral ski jump plus Rdl jump of 30 seconds of just kind of working it. 30 seconds per side, I should say, so just keep that in mind. Then you're going to move into a plank to down dog for 3 to 5 just to move and just kind of get everything kind of shaken out a little bit. From there, we're going to move into one of two things, all right, in terms of our non-equipment variations. We have 4 rounds, 4 intervals of 90-second wall runs and 45-second lateral step overs. So it's going to be nice and slow on the lateral step overs to work on some movement and recovery in a lateral step sense, where we're going to push the pace on that wall run as best we can. So there's some really good intervals. So we're trying to hit, a very similar step count in that wall run each round with a nice recovery through movement here for 45 seconds. Then we have the other choice with the non-movement option that's a little bit more kind of movement focused. 4 rounds, squat lunge combo for 2 for 60 seconds. Trying to get as many repetitions of that and or consistent repetitions in that 60 seconds. And then you're going to work that lateral step over for 30 seconds. Back and forth, nice and steady as recovery. So then you can move right back into that 60 seconds of squat lunge. So it's going to be a nice leg day, a nice chance to get the heart rate up and moving. But I would, again, pick the adventure that you'd like to take down, and that's really going to depend on what you have access to at home. So get those things going, check it out. Let's warm ourselves up a little bit and get you ready for our intervals today. All right, you guys, let's get our feet under our hips. We'll take the arms big and tall up overhead. We're going to reach it over to one side. We're going to come back through, reach it to the other side. We're going to come back up and forward fold, touching those toes. We're going to lock up those shins. Nice flat back as we come back down into our lizard. In that lizard lunge position, we're going to take that back knee down and press the hip. Come through, straighten the back leg, straighten the front leg. Plant the foot, lower, press the hip. We'll come through, straighten and straighten. Plant the foot, lower, hip, through, straighten and straighten. We'll plant that foot, step back into our down dog with those super strong arms. Let's just walk the heels a little bit, back and forth, nice and gentle, nice and easy, nice and smooth. Good. Come back into the plank. We'll step the foot up, nice and square in those hips. We'll lower down, press the hip, center, straighten, straighten. Plant the foot, lower, hip, center, straighten, straighten. Last one, plant the foot, lower, hip, center, straighten, and straighten. We'll plant that foot, we'll step her back into our down dog, reaching through those hips. We'll walk those heels up again, nice and slow, nice and easy. Good, and back into our plank, pressing the floor away. We'll tiptoe those feet up. We're going to roll ourselves all the way up, big tall stretch overhead, little reach, come down with those hands. Let's get you guys fired up. Now, if you have any extra movement you'd like to take down, please do that now. Pause the video, come back at me. We're going to take it top down, a little bit of rotation and a little bit of lower body work. We're going to kickstart off our time together today with our dynamic triangle to windmill. So that's going to set us up in a sumo stance. And we can actually stay in the sumo stance for the first 3 movements if you'd like. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn one toe towards the side. We're going to kick the heel out, planting that hand on the thigh. We're going to reach up to the ceiling. We're gonna pull the hip back into that nice dynamic triangle, getting that little hinge as we reach that arm straight up to the ceiling. So again, pushing that arm up to the sky, we're gonna pull that hip back, and we're gonna take it back up into that overhead. So no matter where our torso points, this arm is always reaching up to the ceiling the entire time. So it's gonna be a nice little chance to play with that. Now from there, once we've done both sides, we're gonna hit up our windmills. We're gonna bring our feet in that sumo stance centered. One arm is gonna reach to the ceiling, one arm is gonna reach down. You're gonna pull the hip back slightly like a good morning, but rotating at the low rib as we lower as far down to the floor as we can. Reaching that arm up to the sky the entire time. Now you can do 3 to 5 on one side, or you can switch your hands out, pull back, and rotate the other direction. And stand in that nice rotation, okay? So with that flow, if you'd like to do back and forth, we're looking 6 to 10 total count, or 3 to 5 on one side, and 3 to 5 on the other. Remembering that that shoulder stays isolated as its own piece and moves because our torso is rotating at the low rib. So keep that in mind as we're moving through that. It's that hip hinge, rotate through the torso, that changes the orientation of the shoulder. After the windmill, we're gonna move into our good morning to sumo squat. So I'm gonna turn profile now for that one for you guys. And that sumo squat stance, we're looking at that nice wide position. We're gonna set the hand reference. We're gonna draw the hips back into that hinge. Now once we come out of that hinge, you're gonna take those hips towards the heels as we push those knees out to the side. And we're gonna stand up nice and tall, reassess our positioning, our weight through the feet, drawing the hips back to maintain that strong back position. We stand up nice and tall, and then we take it down, pulling those knees apart, and then standing up nice and active. So taking that nice smooth approach, that's nice steady flow. There's no rush to these movements, so take your time in those transitions and really feel that nice hip opening in that sumo squat. Now from there, we have our side scale raise. We're gonna bring our feet underneath of those hips, and we're gonna work on just some balance work and some activation through the glute. We're gonna try and keep a straight leg, a straight line of action from heel, knee, hip, and shoulder as we do this side scale raise. We're gonna point the toe off to the side, top of the foot point straight ahead, and then we're gonna just lift that leg up with control. So we're not worrying about how high we get it, we're just worrying about how high we can lift it with control and then lower with control. So we're not trying to go so high that our foot comes crashing down to the floor, nor that we're using momentum to get it up there. We should feel a pretty good engagement through that hip and glute as we lift that leg up to the side. Now from here, we're gonna take that down 3 per side. Both sides are not created equal, so you may find that there's a discrepancy between the legs and or balance. So take your time, make sure you're letting and listening to your body per side as is. Now as a quick recap, we have a dynamic triangle of 3 to 5 per side, windmill of 3 to 5 per side, good morning plus sumo squat for 3 to 5, and a side scale raise for 3 per side. Working through 1 to 2 rounds of that work set, it's going to give you a good top to bottom idea of how the body's feeling and start opening things up a little bit for what's to come later on. So pause that video, take that down, get your body down ready after yesterday's adventure, all right? And we're going to move into a little bit more explosive work right after that. Our next phase of warm-up, regardless of whether or not you're doing the squat lunge combo for the intervals or not, it's a great way to warm up for whatever interval you chose. It's going to cover the legs, get that body moving really well, and also get some heat generated through your body. So the combo is 1 air squat, 2 forward or back lunges. You could also transfer that into 1 squat, 2 RDLs, or 1 squat, 2 back scale raises, and I'll show you those variations. So what I'm going to do is turn profile so you guys can see the kind of flow that I'm looking at here. My feet are in my regular squat stance. I am going to squat, taking my hips towards my heels, my knees track the toes well as I stand tall. I'm going to step into 1 lunge, come back through, 2nd lunge, back into my squat. That's 1 rep. So then I come trying to rush these, but we're also trying to be super accurate with that lunge step so that we can step right back into that squat stance and just move right into the next rep. So we want to try and get rid of any extra movement in that flow from exercise to exercise while still hitting that really strong squat stance. Now the other variation you can play with if you're not looking at lunging today, because we did lunge this week, so if you're like, nah, lunges, all right, that's fine, I get it. You can do this other phase where we can work on a squat, we shift our weight, Rdl, plant the foot, shift our weight, Rdl, come back into that position, squat. And we can just work that shift back and forth, touching on those movements, touching on that hamstring into the squat. Into that movement. It's going to work on some flow, it's going to work on balance, moving into that Rdl position dynamically. It's going to be a really nice opportunity to work on and focus on setting those hips. You'll notice though I wasn't moving quickly, I was just moving smoothly. So I wasn't trying to go faster or rush it, I was just moving steady and smooth. Now if you really want to push that a little bit, you could do it goblet style with that Rdl and just kind of play around with a slight dumbbell for the squat and the lunge or that Rdl positioning. If you'd like, not necessary, but if you'd like to, you can. The other variation what we had was a squat to back scale, very similar to what we just did. We squat, we're going to shift our weight, push our foot back, hit that back scale to a position that works for us, shift our weight, back scale to a position that works, and then come back into our stance and squat again, moving through that sequence. So a little bit more balance, so I'll have to go a little slower with that one because of the balance, but it's also a lot of fun to play with. And just keep it smooth, and you'll be able to cycle quite a few repetitions of that in a minute. Now our next exercise is our lateral ski to Rdl jump. So we're looking at a little bit of that high knee hop. So what it's going to look like is gathering our weight on the one leg. We're going to get that good lateral ski jump, and then we're going to take that arm and work on that vertical hop. Again, to the side, vertical. Side, vertical. Sound effects help everything, all right? So if you're at home, you're doing those sound effects that I was just doing, excellent. Film yourself, send it to me, let me know that you're making sound effects. I'd love to hear it, love to see it. But it does help, I swear. Basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to control the lateral energy vertical, right? It doesn't have to be a high vertical knee, it just wants to be changing directions in that vertical plane opposed to the lateral variation. Now if you're not a jumper, or if you want to add in that little vertical hop but not actually leave the ground, you can also step, high knee, working on balance. Step, high knee. So it's the same flow, we're just not leaving the ground, and it's giving us a chance to play with that change of direction, but not have to leave the ground if we're not comfortable with that. Play with both, it's a nice way to warm things up into the hop, especially if it's one of those movements that are like, kind of touch and go. Next movement here is just a chance to move really well, plank to down dog. So we're going to get ourselves set up in our plank. Hands are just outside the shoulders. Pushing the floor away, we'll pull the hips back and up. We'll get ourselves set in the down dog. If you want to walk a heel out, you can add that in there. You'll come back into your plank. Nice opportunity to work on shoulder engagement and just some really good flow. So we did these yesterday in our warm-up. We want to make sure that we're just waking up our upper back, waking up those shoulders a little bit, and if you want to add in the heels, it's a nice plank because we just did a bunch of jumping, so it's not a bad thing to touch on those calves a bit. It's a nice little triplet, 2 to 3 rounds, just going to work on some skill work there, get that body moving, and then we're going to work on a few practice rounds to get that heart rate going in terms of whatever style of intervals you're working on. So if you're moving into a rower, a bike, treadmill, hit a few shorter sprints, just some quick ones. Maybe practice the lateral step over a little bit, and just make sure you're getting your heart rate up, feeling that apparatus and going for it before you actually start the 4 rounds. Now, as a quick recap, we have a squat lunge combo, so squat 2 lunges, 1 to 3, lateral ski jump to Rdl jump, 30 seconds per side, lunge, or I should say not per side, 30 seconds alternating. I screwed that up in the opening segment, so please disregard that statement. All right, 30 seconds total count alternating, and then a plank to down dog for 3 to 5 reps. So it's a nice chance to work on just getting that body moving. Pause it, rock it, come back to me. We're going to talk about our 2 non-equipment intervals, entering you loose. All right, you guys, we made it to the workout. Hit a couple practice intervals quick before we start the actual work set. That'll get your heart rate up, give you a good feel of what you're about to do, and get your mind wrapped around that work set that you're about to take down. Now, our first 2 intervals that we have without equipment, 4 rounds. You do a wall run or butt kick. So again, as a quick review on the butt kick, we're standing nice and upright, hands are at the 90. All right, and we're gonna work on pulling that foot up underneath of the hip, turning into that 4 position. So that nice pose, that figure 4. So we're gonna work on running, sprinting, getting those arms involved, but always hitting that pose position. The only difference between that and the wall run is I'll be leaning into the wall just slightly. So I'll be on this kind of 45 kind of degree, pushing into the wall and pulling that foot still underneath of my hip so that I'm really focusing on almost moving forward. So if someone took the wall away, I would just start running, right? So that's kind of where we're living at for that wall run. It's going to give you a little bit of activation against the upper body for the core, and it's also going to let those legs just fly. So we're looking again, 90 seconds of work. You're going to try and get as many steps in that time frame and try and keep those steps pretty consistent. As soon as you finish your wall run, you're going to move into lateral box step over. So you're going to work on stepping over the box, all right? Nice and smooth, keeping that knee over top of the heel. It doesn't have to be fast, but you're going to move for 45 seconds. You can also do a lateral ski jump. You can also do a lateral dumbbell step over with a low step or a high kind of hurdle step to work on opening up that hip a little bit. So you can kind of experiment with whatever style of step over you'd like to do. You'll use that step over as some recovery. You'll move back into that wall run, take it down, trying to stay consistent in those steps, take it away from there. The other variation gives us 4 rounds, 60 seconds, squat, lunge, or one of those many variations of the squat, lunge combo we did in our previous warm-up. So if you need a review on that, scroll back, check that out. You'll do as many repetitions as you can in 60 seconds. You'll go back into our variations of our lateral step over, and then you'll go right back into that squat, lunge combo. So it's pretty steady, pretty solid all the way through. So it's a pretty fast little work set, but your legs are going to be on fire. So please keep that in mind as you're going through this work set. Now our other variations are going to be a little bit different. They're going to be using some different apparatus. We'll have a skipping option, a bike option, rowing option, and a treadmill option. So pick the one that you'd like to take down. If you have that equipment at home, you can have some fun with those intervals and just embrace. Remember, with these intervals, we're looking for a pace that we can maintain consistently over these 4 rounds with not very much recovery. The recovery is very active, so we do have to listen to our body and pick a pace that we're going to go the distance for these 4 rounds and try and maintain that pace and not let it drop off. I hope you guys have fun with this today. Intervals are challenging mentally and physically, so I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions about how to take these down, please shoot me a message. Let me know. I'll help you out with that. But besides that, you guys, happy Friday. Enjoy. We're coming at you with one more workout tomorrow to close out the week. And we got a fun lead into the Christmas holidays coming up in the next 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a good time. Bye, you guys.